Hey everybody, I'm Katallina, and today we're talking about episode 6 of Konosuba season 3. There was a ton of great stuff in this episode, but I'm gonna start with talking about Megumin because she is my favorite, so I'm biased. Anyway, I thought that her stuff in this was really fantastic. I thought it was really funny how, as Aqua was sitting there and getting drunk off her ass, and as Darkness was realizing, holy crap, the thieves are actually Kazuma and Kris, we had Megumin staring at Kazuma starry-eyed, absolutely in awe at his appearance as this master thief, and just completely swooning over him and fangirling so hard. And it was so funny because, of course, she has no idea that it's Kazuma. But given what we have seen in this season, and that we know that she does clearly seem to like him and everything, it's funny that even when he's in a disguise, she is still drawn toward him. That only gets expanded further when we get to the end of the episode, and we see the parting situation between Kazuma and his friends versus, like, Princess Iris and her retainers. And it was really funny because we see Megumin and Iris just totally get into it because Iris keeps calling Kazuma elder brother. And eventually, Megumin just walks right up to her and goes, "Stop calling him elder brother. You have a brother. That is your brother. This is not your brother." And of course, Iris is trying to counter that and everything. And eventually, Megumin just got this fantastic line where she is like, "Stop using the elder brother button." And it just made me think of like the Staples Depot button. And I just started laughing so hard. I mean, I'm sure that's not really necessarily what the intent of the author was, but holy crap, that's where my mind went, and it was just so freaking hilarious. Of course, it gets even better as that scene progresses because we eventually come to realize that Princess Iris is nowhere near as clueless as you might have thought she was, or I might have thought she was, and we realize that she knows exactly who the thief was, and she knows exactly who ended up with her ring. And what I will say is, when we got to that part in the episode where Kazuma and Kris go to steal stuff from her, and they both cast their ability, all I could think was, oh my god, no, Kazuma is gonna steal her underwear. And I'm thinking, yeah. But on one hand, when it found out it was a ring, I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then we find out what the ring is actually about, and oh my god, would have been better if it had been panties, at least as far as like story continuity and all that sort of thing from an ethical standpoint. But from a storytelling standpoint, holy crap, dude, I will 100% take it. It's pretty clear we're going to eventually see Iris again, and that's going to be awesome because I've really enjoyed her as a character. On one hand, I'm glad that the group is going back to their main home base because there are characters like Wiz and that sort of thing where we haven't seen them in a while, and it'll be much more fun to see them again because of that. But at the same time, it'll be good to eventually see Iris and the castle people down the line, especially knowing what we know now. As far as the first half of the episode, with the break-in and the overall combat situations, my favorite part of the entire thing was actually when Kazuma ended up going up against Mitsurugi, because I'm just like Kazuma, I can't stand him. Usually I like the good, noble, heroic character, at least I think they're okay. But this guy, there's just something about him from the first time that we've met him and like every time since where I'm just like, I don't like you. It's like, wow. It's like, I don't even know exactly why I don't like him. Maybe it's just that he's not what my expectations are for this particular show. But like, dude, you and I, we do not gel. So, seeing Kazuma go up against him and him thinking, I got this sorted out, not knowing it's Kazuma, of course, but referencing the idea that like, yeah, steel isn't going to work on me, buddy. And Kazuma looking like he's going to cast steel and then actually casting a freeze spell after having put water down so that Mitsurugi goes yahoo like he is one of the robbers from Home Alone, just going ass over tea kettle and landing flat out on the floor was freaking hilarious. And if that wasn't enough, oh no, it didn't stop there. Then Kazuma turns around, he uses his water spell, he douses Mitsurugi with the water, and it looked like when the other dwarfs drop Grumpy into the basin in Snow White. Like, freaking hilarious, dude. Like, where on earth did they get that idea? But I laughed and laughed. Oh my goodness, that was funny. And I mean, it was just so cool to see Kazuma basically running around and actually being like super competent. I think that he was likely being helped at least in part by the mask, but I mean, the logic and thinking and decision making, that to me, I think that was all Kazuma. And it was really cool to see him be so on his A game, because I think that while Kazuma has his flaws and his issues, and so we definitely have some of those in here, especially in where he's like, oh, maybe the princess should marry me, and it's like, no. At the same time, I think he does actually care about Iris, at least in regard to just being a nice person and everything. And I think that he was taking this super seriously because he realizes that with that ring, or no, not with the ring, but with the necklace, that obviously like her safety is in grave jeopardy. And oh my gosh, when he finds out what that ring is, it's like, ooh. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, what are they gonna do with the ring? What can they do with this ring? And it's like, honestly, at first I was like, swallow it. And then I looked that up in Google and I'm like, no, wait, don't swallow it. That's a terrible idea. And then I'm like, you know, the best thing for that ring would probably be to put it somewhere and have Megumin go, explosion, and deal with it if they were actually trying to be practical. But of course, this is Konosuba, so I don't necessarily expect them to be taking the most logical path forward. And I do expect the ring to eventually cause them trouble at some point, because obviously Kazuma has a hold of it, and it's not on Princess Iris's finger where it should be. And if Kazuma has a hold of it, think about what happened with that magic hammer. It's entirely possible that someone else who is much less savory, and less savory than Kazuma, that's pretty bad, could get a hold of that, and it could cause a lot of trouble. While we're chatting about Kazuma's morality, though, I must also point out the idea that Kris or Iris actually trusts Kazuma and thinks that Kazuma would do the right thing, whether with the necklace or even more importantly, in my opinion, with the ring, is absolutely laughable. I mean, it's basically a coin toss. For the necklace, I think it would depend on whether or not Kazuma wanted to keep living, for one, and whether he could find somebody annoying enough that he'd be willing to kill them, but also useful enough that he'd want to inhabit their body. I wouldn't trust him with an item like that any farther than I could throw a freaking truck, dude. But I'm far more concerned about the ring. And the thing I find really interesting about the ring, when I think about it and look back on it, is that it's not just that Kazuma has it and is like, oh, but it's that Princess Iris is actually sounding like she is counting on the idea that he has the ring, and like she is looking forward to that. And that was just like, yikes. Especially like, oh my goodness, imagine if Megumin finds out what the deal with that ring is, because then I'm pretty sure it won't be Kazuma asking her to explode it. It will be Megumin like throwing it in the air and it just disintegrating into a pile of ash, because I don't think she would take that very well. I still thought it was a very interesting twist of storytelling though, and I thought it was really funny watching Darkness grabbing the two of them and like finally like telling and explaining to Kazuma what the hell it was that he had grabbed, because when she said it and when she was explaining it, it sounded like so serious, and obviously it is, but poor Kazuma is just like, oh crap. But as we wrap the episode up, it does seem like our group has finally made their way back to their main home hub, which will be cool to see some of the characters we've been missing. And it looks like that really scumbag noble, I think his name is like Alderp or something. It looks like he actually was looking for the necklace and like he had some kind of idea of what it was actually for. And the idea of that scumbag getting a hold of it, or oh dear God, getting a hold of the princess's ring, is just absolute nightmare fuel that sends shivers down my spine. Which of course is kind of funny because Konosuba is usually a more funny and largely light-hearted show, but oh my god, the idea of that cretin getting a hold of anything after what we saw when we were in his manor the other week is just like, ugh. But overall, I thought this was a fantastic episode and I had a great time watching it. What did you guys think about it? What was your favorite part? Which character are you finding the most enjoyable this season? For me, it's obviously Megumin. Darkness's turn of maturity and stuff has been really fun. I wonder once we get back to the main hub whether she's going to revert back to being a bit more pervy and silly and stuff, because as I've said before, on one hand, that's not necessarily my favorite kind of comedy, but we have definitely seen that much more lacking in this castle sequence than what we have prior, and I know there are some people who do genuinely enjoy that, so it'll be interesting to see where exactly that goes. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!